Okay, we're going to introduce Angelo to moving his forehand with a suggestion, so driving him over. And again, I have done that with him. I did that with him in the first session where it was an obvious yield to do. Back up, get away, and move your forehand away were two very obvious things. So when it comes to the game of dominance, nose and pointer shoulder. So backing up and moving that shoulder are the ones you really want to get going well. So what I'm going to introduce you to here is two different ways to start. The first one is actually a little bit easier for the horse because it helps him put his weight back, lightening up the forehand, making it easier for him to move. However, it's a little bit counterintuitive for the human, so we take a little time to get our heads around it. But I'll demonstrate that, and then I'll demonstrate a way that, whilst it works, is a little harder for the horse to understand, but a little bit easier for the human to coordinate and understand. So in the beginning, you may just have to start out like that. I'll show you both soon. In a little while, I'll show you both. If I stand directly in front of him to ask him to move his forehand out, I will firstly direct. So I'll offer a little feel on this lead rope. I'll direct in the direction I want him to go, and then I'll head forwards and in the direction I want him to go. So if I was wanting him to go to my left, I'd be going forwards and left. I'd take the middle ground. So it'd be an angle forwards and left, and the rein would direct him that way. And then with this will be out my right hand doing this, coming towards with every circle. And that would cause him to go back a little bit, bend his hocks a little bit, lighten up his forehand, and step over. At least that's what we'd want to have happen. And that's good for about a quarter turn. So we'll give that a little bit of a go here while we have that opportunity. So I'm directly in front of it. In fact, I'm even a little bit off to the left here. My intention comes up, it's directed on him. I ask him to step over, and we get a nice step over. If he had a little bit more, if he was a little bit more extroverted in his nature, in other words, he moved his feet a little more willingly, he would have turned and gone forwards. I wouldn't correct that right away. Now, the reason I wouldn't correct that is I've just asked him to step over. He's done it. If he stepped forwards and I put a big correction in there, it would happen so quickly that he would link that correction to the movement ahead of it. So pretty soon he'd know not to move his forehand over. So it's better for me if he moves over and dribbles off or even moves out a bit than not at all. So that's okay. So he went over, he didn't move as it was. More of an introverted sort of a horse, not typical of a thoroughbred, not typical of a racehorse at least, but they do exist in the breed. So he's one of them. Yes, and all that means is your flight line's actually quite short, so you probably made that quite difficult for your trainer in your racehorse days. So I'm going to come off this way here. I'm going to come to my right. I'm going to firstly direct him. My energy is going to be up. I'm going to come forwards and to my right. So I'm doing it at this angle here. And with this stick, I'm swooping, 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 swooping. So energy comes up. I direct. I step in. He steps over pretty nicely. There's a little swing of the hip that I'm mindful of, but pretty nicely. So that could have been that he needed to go back a little bit more, just to put a little more weight back to go over. But I'm not really fussed at this point. This is so early in the process that what he's doing is great, outstanding. And that actually is about all I need to do with that. I'll do it once more each side just to show you. But really, if I got that on day one, I'd be quite happy. I'd be quite happy to leave it overnight, come back the next day and just do a little bit more, because then you'd see the horse would process it and actually usually retain so much of it that he does it a lot better the next day. And again, we're going to find that every horse has a good side and a better side. So there it is, and stepping in. Now, what would happen if he didn't move? Well, they usually move if your backup works well. Okay, if they're responsive to your backup, they usually do move. That's the first thing. So you could go back to getting him to back up a little bit better, just raising the bar a little bit there. But the other thing is, I'm very deliberate in how I do this. Horses do not lie to each other. So if one horse pins his ear, says, I'm going to bite you, that's what he's going to do. Okay, he's not going to say, I'm going to bite you. Oh, no, I'm not going to really. I just thought you might move. They're actually going to do it. So as this is coming towards him, it is going to occupy the space he's in. So the two of them can't be in the same space at the same time. That's going to, oh, if it taps him, it's because he didn't move out the way. They're big, not stupid. Okay, so pretty quick, they're going to be moving out the way. It's not difficult. They already understand that. They've been doing that with other horses for all their lives. It's well understood. It's just a little bit harder to understand coming from a human, and you've got to face the facts. We're never going to convince them that we're a horse, no matter how much we might want to be. So I'm going to send them off over here. My energy comes up. I'm going forwards a little more. Okay, so that's an interesting little trait there. So on this side, he actually, it would appear he has a little more trouble putting his weight back, so he just swings a little further forward. It's not a big deal at this point, not a big deal. So we'll leave him there. I hope you saw that, and you can go out and maybe practice it without the horse just to get a bit of a feel for it. And then if you want to, go and practice that with your horse. We're going to show you the next way very soon.